Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening to Tesla, what we can expect moving forward, and all that good stuff after a bit of a wild day with J-Pow. And we have a lot of earnings coming out today and tomorrow. So yeah, if you enjoy, again, don't forget to hit that like button, guys. This is not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor. But again, if you enjoy my technical analysis, updates in the charts, technical analysis, whatever. I do have a YouTube membership, right, where I share all my thoughts, post updates every single day as the market is trading. So definitely check that out. That link is, of course, in the description of below. So you can click that. You get access to the link to subscribe and join up if you wish. Down right here, you can see, click this bad boy right here. And just $3 a month, guys. That's all it is. $3 a month. And you get access to all my Tesla updates, broader market updates, SPY, VIX, things like that, different time frame analysis, and options flow, of course, as well throughout the day as the market's open and trading. $5 includes NVDA to that as well. $7 includes the whole package where you get all my tier 3 posts, essentially, bringing up stocks and charts that are setting up nicely that are not Tesla, not NVIDIA, essentially. And access to the private Discord where we got tier 3 chat room, very active chat room, a lot of members day trade, share thoughts, etc. And every Sunday I do chart requests with members. But yeah, jumping into a Tesla, very humble day today. Nice 0.2% on the day, pretty much flat on the day, despite some fairly volatile movement. You can see some nice wicks above and below. But, pretty much not doing a whole lot. Down a smidge over in the after hours, most likely off of the kind of, Max 7 earnings coming out, right? Meta, for instance, is down substantially. 8% a drop on Meta, very well down below. Back at the lows, actually, back here. Substantial drop on Meta. Google performing quite well. Microsoft, I think Microsoft is, honestly, I really do think it's a phenomenal company, but still down 3%. Not too bad. But yeah, Tesla, hang on, but barely. So it's a very interesting situation, unfortunately, because despite the volatility, we ended up flat. I mentioned how yesterday I'm in a bit of perplexed about the stock in terms of where it is right now, where I'm personally not extremely convinced one way or the other as of right now. And again, I'll give you the different perspectives. I'll give you the different levels to watch for a bullish or bearish type outcome, I guess you can say. But today, when we dropped to the lows of the day, we actually got very close to the 9 exponential moving average that was sitting at pretty much like 448, 449 almost, right? We got down to about 452 and change. So we got pretty close to it, but obviously we recovered a good amount of that. You can see with a very long wick. And the good news about the daily, so there's good news and there's bad news. Again, it's very perplexing. So you're going to see a lot of good news and bad news, but I'll give you the overall basic rundown as well as the way I'm personally perceiving it. The good news on the daily chart is the fact that the daily chart, you can see, is actually now above and holding above those green Fibonacci's on the daily. That is a potentially good sign, right? That is something that is arguably a positive development, right? I can't deny that that is a good thing, right? We ended up also closing above yesterday's high, or I should say close rather. Those are good signs. Those are good signs. Now, the question is well, just getting above that is one step, but getting some follow through, right? Actual follow through, that's what we actually need to see. Now that J-Pow and the whole FOMC thing is done today and we got the rate cut, etc., maybe we get that move to the upside, maybe we don't. We don't know yet for sure. But again, the levels to watch for moving into things are going to be very soon when I get into the smaller time frames. I also wanted to quickly mention the MACD on the daily is still red, right? If this thing can start turning back to green, flipping back to bullish, that also would be a positive development. And of course, we do have bullish EMAs. We are slightly extended from the 9, of course, but the EMAs are also bullish. So there's there are good signs here on the daily time frame. However, this is where we start getting where I start getting perplexed, right? This is the 4-hour and the 1-hour time frame is where I'm not as convinced, I guess you can say. Let me explain. So the 4-hour time frame, I don't care about the MACD in the 4-hour. I only care about the MACD on pretty much only on the daily, honestly. The SMI. Now, I use the SMI indicator a lot, right? It's one of my favorite indicators. It's a very simple indicator. If the stock is trading in the at a range where the SMI is around the top end of the spectrum up here, you're playing with fire. In terms of substantial further upside, yeah, you're playing with fire. While on the flip side, if it's near the bottom of the range, you're playing with fire to further downside. In other words, caution from bullish perspectives when it's up here, but you want to be most likely looking for potential bullish opportunities when it's down here, right? Again, if I zoom out, I'll pause the screen, you can take a look at it for yourselves. When it's at the top, take a look where the chart is. When it's at the bottom, take a look where the chart is, right? And what happened afterwards. So again, I'm not going to go over each instance. Take a look for yourselves and come to your own conclusion. We're at the top, right? We are at the top. That is my concern number one. We're at the top. That to me is not, it does make me question, right? Just naturally, that's just how this indicator usually works. It does make me question just how much more upside movement is there left. Now, it's not perfect. For instance, when we had this massive rally up here and it was at the top, right when we were around 427, we actually still rallied to like 460. We still got like, almost a $30 move to the upside, which is pretty good, right? So again, it's not perfect. It's by no means perfect. perfect, right? And hopefully this is one of those instances, but it is more accurate than not in more cases, if that makes sense. So that's the one thing I'm concerned about. The second thing I don't know, I guess, quote unquote, concerned about is, well, we have this wedge. I mentioned how I want to see Tesla, if it's going to really, react bullishly up here, it broke the levels, it broke things, it is still holding 459 to 460. So that's good. That is good, right? We're not actually closing even 1 hour candles below. You can see 459 here roughly, right? You can see even though we went well below it when JPAL was talking, we recovered all of it. Couldn't get a closure below. Those are good signs. I will admit, again, which is why I'm very perplexed here. But, we did technically fall out of this wedge because, the thing with these wedges is if we don't just bounce off of it nicely and aggressively, we're just going to naturally slip out. And then we're out of this sort of bottom trend line, kind of, steep rising kind of trend line, right? That's been supporting the price, right? Started here, and arguably here. And then we fell out of it because we just weren't really doing anything, right? We were just slowly making our way down, slowly but surely. We didn't get that strong bullish reaction sooner, or as soon as at least I would have liked to see it, which is, again, why we're down below. And now the fact that we're down below this wedge and we have arguably broken down underneath this wedge, arguably a bearish breakdown, this does raise some concerns for me. So this combined with the SMI in the 4 hour is why I'm also a little perplexed here. Despite some issues or some good signs on the daily, there's some concerning signs on the 4 hour time frame. So, it's just, I'm not fully convinced. And I personally, if I absolutely had to pick a direction, which I'm not trading the stock right now, I'm waiting for like stronger signals. I do pick slightly down. I'll go over the levels to the downside where I believe it can go if it does go slightly down. But because of this rising wedge breakdown and the 4 hour SMI being up here, I'm not jumping up and down for joy. Let's just say that's for a long position on Tesla, at least as of this like literal very moment. Then we go to the 1 hour time frame. Now, this is where we could get some potential good signs, right? Again, like I said, I'm perplexed. I don't have a clear direction on Tesla stock. So if Tesla can break above 463 to 464, essentially around here, if Tesla can break this range right here, that'll be good. Not only do we break this high right here, which will be a good sign, but also, especially if it happens sometime, tomorrow, we'll break out of this, what could be developing a, nice looking bull flag, right? Nice little bull flag developing here on the 1 hour time frame. And you can notice that despite this move to the downside, we never actually closed candles below. So this could arguably be seen as a bullish sweep, and it's essentially a bear trap. Also potentially a good sign. So in order for me to start flipping back to at least short-term bullish, right? Obviously long-term I'm bullish on the stock, like, years down the road. That's a whole different story. We're not here for like, a year, 3, 4, 5, whatever years down the road. We're here for the next, week, 2, maybe month, right? For me to flip bullish on Tesla and for Tesla to invalidate this potential bearish breakdown on this rising wedge, and also to give this, or to, I guess, invalidate essentially this SMI, which is on the upper end of the spectrum here, and make a rally to about 480, which is that retest of previous all-time highs if I zoom out over here, right? Or near, I should say, previous all-time highs, right? About 480 up to 487. In order for that to happen, yeah, I want to see 463, 464 broken tomorrow. Because again, this would essentially validate this being a massive bull flag, nice little breakouts, and then we head higher from there. That would be the level I'd look for in order for me to flip stronger bullish short term to about the very high 470s to getting into the 480s itself as well, right? So worth paying attention to and worth monitoring to see how this actually develops. But until we break out of this, until we snap above this, I do have to lean bearish, because as of it stands right now, there is technical validity behind this rising wedge breakdown that we are technically down below now, right? We have technically fallen out of it, and technically that shows weakness, but we haven't technically actually broken out of what looks to be a bull flag, right? So we're still technically within this bull flag, which in other words is also a downward channel. So we can continue channeling downwards like this to the lower targets, which I'll go over next, what I would look for to the downside if we continue lower moving forward, right? So again, like I said, I am a little perplexed here. I don't have a very clear direction, but the easiest way to think about it, below 463, 464, I think the bears have a slight advantage here short term. Again, I want to make it clear, short term. Above 463, 464, I think the bulls break out of this flag and we actually head higher faster sooner. 480-ish is my target. Now, if this ends up actually being that rising wedge breakdown and we do head lower, and let's say that is just the situation that we are in, and we do make our way overall lower, you can make one argument, the fact that even losing this trend line right here would be that concern. So watch for this trend line as well. But the levels to the downside I'll be looking for, I showed it to my members. I don't know if I can find it. I think I can't remember if I used the 1 hour chart or the 1 hour chart or the 4 hour. I don't really remember, but I'll use the 1 hour for this one. If you take this, all this kind of swing low, go all the way to this swing high, these are the levels I'll be looking for to the downside if we do end up playing out that wedge breakdown. The first level will be, around 450, right? The 382 Fibonacci sitting at 447. We'll just say about 450, right? Around this general range, which is also previous resistance to come back and test it as potential new supports. That will be the first level. To as low as, I don't think we'll go lower than this, but worst case scenario, in my opinion, 435 roughly. 435 is that 618 Fibonacci level. That is the optimal discount zone. And that also will be that gap fill as well that we have here, also sitting at pretty much 435. This to me is like that best case scenario to enter like a nice risk reward type scenario for a long position to the down to the upside after getting this retracement, if of course presented, right? So that's the way I'll be looking at it. And those are the main levels I'll be looking at it to the downside if we do end up following that 4 hour wedge breakdown. Again, like I said, I'm pretty perplexed, right? So I'll be honest, sometimes I don't have a very clear picture, and we didn't really do a whole lot today, right? Ultimately, in terms of the close, pretty much flat. So not a whole lot of new information really got developed. And the final thing I'll talk about is the weekly. Now, this is where it's interesting. Is this just another trap, right? Is this going to be another trap? Like all these weeks we're back here, where every time it seemed like we're finally about to push higher, close above these Fibonacci's, above the low 440s, and we get smacked down very aggressively, and we still close at or below the green fibs. 2 days left, guys. 2 days left. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see how Tesla reacts tomorrow. With these tech earnings starting to report. We have Amazon tomorrow as well, I think, right? So we have Amazon tomorrow, and I think Amazon's tomorrow. We have Apple tomorrow. Meta just reported. Google just reported. Microsoft just reported. Yeah, so we have Amazon and Apple tomorrow. Also, big stocks, guys, big stocks. Let's see how that plays out as well. In terms of SPY, SPY's looking pretty decent actually. Got a pretty decent retracement, but it recovered actually a surprisingly good amount of it, right? But you can see, we did break back above this trend line. We are actually still, the market is very bullish in my opinion, right? The market is undeniably bullish, at least as of right now. Things can change, but as it stands right now, the market's bullish. But again, I do think it's still a little bit extended. I do think that there is a good chance that we most likely continue, a slow but steady pullback, maybe some sideways chop or a slow kind of bleed down. At the very least, until the price essentially meets that 9 exponential moving average, which will also come up to us, day by day to slowly meet us. And, maybe we meet in the middle, maybe we come down to it, maybe it comes up to us and we go sideways. I don't know exactly, but I do think that the further upside in this immediate time on SPY and just the broader market is probably a little capped. I don't think that we'll go too much higher too quickly, probably for the rest of this week, to be completely honest with you. Until at the very least we meet that 9 exponential moving average, which is again slowly going to work its way up to us. So that's worth mentioning. And then of course we have the VIX. You can see came up right into those orange, the orange line that I placed, that I had, for the longest time now. I was talking about this a while, especially when we had this initial pop over here, and it got rejected, right? It got rejected. So the markets and the bulls essentially want to keep this VIX essentially below this orange line. As long as it's below this orange line, the market will remain in kind of bullish control, if that makes sense. And I think the market will overall naturally resume higher. But if this thing starts breaking back above this range, we could see a bit of a deeper move in to the downside in the broader markets as well. So continue watching this potential development here, guys. 17.5/0.6 is that level to watch on the VIX. But options flow on Tesla. The final thing to talk about before we end off this video. Let's take a peek to see what happened here. Overall, definitely more bullish than bearish flow, but not substantially, honestly, not substantially. And towards the last, 2 hours, 1.5-ish hours of the day, you can see some nice bears came in here, but then some nice bulls came in the most recent time as well. So even the options flow is pretty mixed. We have a lot of bears getting puts for this week right down here. Then we have some nice bulls getting calls for this week right up here. It's mixed, guys. I'm not gonna lie, the stock is very mixed. It doesn't feel like it has a clear direction one way or the other. We need some stronger movements in one way or the other ultimately. Like for instance, here's the easiest way to think about it. Can we get a closures like like maybe a 1 hour 15 even closure above, we'll say 463, 464, bullish. If we get a 1 hour candle closure below, honestly, even below like 4, 5, 8, 9, something like that, right? Essentially all these candles here, you can see all these wicks. We never got a closure below. Get a closure below this, we make our way down. So watch for these two levels, guys. Closures below those levels, above or below, should signal the next move. And until then, there's not a whole lot to really talk about, to be honest, even though this video is somehow still 14 minutes long. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.